prepared immer noch.
All right. He tells
Setting
me
up your...
he's being live streamed.
Really doesn't tell me that here.
Anyone with access, I can look into some info window here. It tells me anyone with access to the live stream may view or share with others. And YouTube is also over here. So the audience, if you already see us, we are not sure whether you see us.
So wait a minute, I think we are live, but I do hear myself. So that's interesting. I have an echo back. Is that happening for you as well?
Test.
I do hear you.
Yeah, that's great. You should, but you shouldn't hear yourself, right?
But then when I see the live stream, it's also... I think this is working.
I mean, let's just start.
Yeah, I'm just, what happened is that it popped up. So I do see the live stream, I guess, naturally, as I should. But I just...
window over here, so I assume it's working just fine.
Cool.
Just do it for now, then.
No, it's fine. I just had the feedback of me talking and it was a bit delayed. So delayed processing, as we know it.
Do you still hear yourself?
No, I just muted it.
Oh, great. Cool. Then let's go. Welcome to the... How did you want to name this?
I named it Neuro Talks, just to begin with. Yeah, just as an experiment.
Absolutely. So guys and girls, welcome to the Neuro Talks. It's Xenia and Leon, and today we are live to talk about the challenges and chances of being neurodivergent in business and performance. And so great to have you here. Xenia, how do you feel?
I do feel great. Let's maybe just give a bit of context as to how we arrived at this stage today. I think it's quite funny how we actually decided to go live, because we do talk. So we have an ongoing exchange, you and I. How did we actually start this? Do you remember? I think you reached out through LinkedIn and asked a very interesting triggering question, which was about performance. I think you said, what do I think? Is there performance without regulation or something like that? It was really a triggering question, which all started the Neurotalk conundrum. Of course I have a good memory. I'm neurodivergent.
The artist is showing up over here. Lovely, because I remember some people are completely like, when did we meet? How did we meet? You just appeared out of nowhere, basically, at least according to my memory. So no, I'm impressed right now. It was about regulation in performance, and if this regulation or if performance can happen without or within the realm of dysregulated core states.
Yeah.
So from this, we got into the podcast. And we had this one German interview, right, where we talked about how does performance in business work with neurodivergent traits such as autism, ADHD. We also had a bit of HSP, the highly sensitive persona. And so, yeah, from this, it developed. And so then at some point we decided, hey, honestly, the things that we're talking about, they might be interesting for some of the people out there. So let's give this to an audience. And here we are.
Might be interesting. Yeah, that's true. So what do we actually talk about? I think we have quite some interesting discussions, since we both do coaching and trainings for people who want to improve self-efficacy, self-regulation and performance. However, we do find ourselves also struggling every now and then, especially me. And I opened up about a huge barrier of mine, or hurdle, where I struggle with live formats. And then we talked about exposure and nervous system training, because when you encourage something if you encourage a trauma-related loop in your life, working only mentally won't really work. So you do understand the problem, you might understand the root cause, but then putting it into action, implementing it, that's where it all goes down. This is where it's becoming more challenging, and you might feel paralyzed. And I opened up about this, and for me, it's the speaking in live context and being exposed to a sense of vulnerability in a way, conveying a message or talking about a subject where we need to reduce complexity. And I'm still working on that. But this is where we said, hey, well, how about we just start this live format and talk about this or other struggles we are facing, and talking about when we do regularly meet, which I find is something I guess many people can relate to, but it's not really shown on social media. Nowadays, when you open LinkedIn, I'm not too much on Instagram and stuff like that, but you see copy and paste, hero stories. You do see struggles, but you always see the hero story. You know, I struggled with this and this is what I did. And then I came through it the other end. But sometimes we don't come through it. Sometimes we do have to live through it and we don't have the solution yet. And I think we need more of those spaces, because I also, and I'm happy to understand what your experience is here. I noticed that a lot of people don't want to be exposed to the negativity of things. We always want to get rid of negative emotions. However, I think we need more space to hold those negative emotions as well without having solutions, because sometimes it's just enough to talk about it. You know, I often talk about things just because I'm honest and this is how I connect. I don't want to necessarily have a solution, or I don't seek a solution in that particular moment. Otherwise, I would state it. And then I see how people feel uncomfortable and during this moment of silence and acknowledgement. And then I've noticed this recently. If people ask me how I'm doing and I'm telling them what's going on in my life, you see that they retract. You know, they want to escape this this information which they weren't prepared for. I guess maybe I have to preface this next time. Trigger warning. And then I understand. Oh, I made them uncomfortable, which wasn't my intention. And yeah, do you experience something like this as well? It's a typical question, how are you doing? Which as an autistic person, I hate, because I will answer truthful. And then I wonder, maybe answer truthfully, but not give the whole life story.
Xenia,
I'm not
I
sure.
remember it was one of our first conversations, and I came in with, "Hey, Xenia, how are you doing?" And you told me, "Yeah, you know, as an artist, this is a question, it's hard to answer, so I give you the truth bomb right now." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh yeah, that's so sympathetic." Yeah, definitely, because we process information like this, and small talk is a bit hard for us to do in a way, right? So to just talk about the weather and be like, yeah, you know, everything is so great. Also, what you just mentioned on, you get highlight reels at all times on social media. Everyone is telling you how great they're doing, and so thing is that every one of us goes through their personal struggles, and everyone, it's every time or every phases of their journey, whatever that is, they have the challenges. It's completely normal. And so even if, for example, if you're a coach consultant right now yourself and you're listening to this, you might have experienced this too, that you teach someone to something to your clients, or you consult them on a certain topic, you make them go through transformation, and you're successful with this. But somewhere in the back of your mind, you feel like, actually, right now, I'm not doing this myself, so how can I tell it to others? And so you really have to disconnect these two and say, you can be kind of a program, or whatever to call this, but you don't have to at all times be in the perfect state in order to make others go through transformation. So that's one thing. Um, but yeah, apart from this, to show up with a bit of vulnerability is something that, I mean, people either exaggerate with this and they cry in front of the camera and go for, "Hey, you know, I have such a hard time right now, and please become my followers so I feel like I am someone." And then on the other hand, you have the people who only drop their highlight reels, as you just mentioned, Xenia. And so thing is that there's no middle ground, right? Where you can be kind of healthily open and vulnerable about what's going on right now, make this truth talk without being too becoming too tragic, so to speak. And so that being said, Xenia, if you want, share a bit with us about what's going on for you right now, as far as you feel comfortable talking about it?
Whew, what's going on overall? You mean?
I mean, for example, you said that there's some tools that you actually know you should be using,
All
that
right.
1,000 times you probably
Yeah,
you taught them to a million people or 10,000 of them at least. Um, but right now, you might have some moments in the evening where you think to yourself,
yeah,
"Hey, today I could have used this tool, but I didn't, and I don't even know why."
yeah. Mm. Well, I think I just want to talk to one point you made, which I find is quite crucial, is the feeling of imposter in a way as a coach, understanding the tools, sometimes being unable to apply them for yourself makes you sometimes feel like a fraud. Also, people might have the opinion that they've heard this someone say about you. How can you be a good coach if you can't get your life together? And I think there's a disconnect because I realize that you can be well aware of all of the framework and tools, but when your nervous system is not in a state of safety and orientation or connection, then you need to take care of yourself first. And this disconnect has nothing to do with your skill set and with your competencies. It has to do with a current disconnect of self-efficacy and agency. And if you notice that, then I think the first and foremost, most important thing for you to do is understand, okay, how can I reinstall safety or regulation into my life? And the lesson to be learned here for me, now coming to your question, is that it does not necessarily need to be the big framework picture, but only what's accessible for you right here, right now. We know this from coaching, but we seldomly give this to ourselves, mini steps. Because we can put it into an example. Let's say you are an English teacher who has proficient level of English. And then you might find yourself in a situation where you have been struggling so much, your resilience is down, and you grasp for words. You wouldn't say, okay, I managed to say this one sentence. Thanks God. Let's appreciate this. You would always approach it from the perspective of lack. You've been proficient and now you struggle to get across one single point. And what we don't acknowledge in this particular situation has nothing to do with our competences, and that performance is ultimately relying on your nervous system state. If you don't feel safe, if you have a lack of orientation, if you're disconnected from the world, you don't have access to your real resources. And I think this was very important for me to understand. And then taking this into the micro aspect of my life and being appreciative and grateful for doing many steps such as not spending 3 hours on LinkedIn and trying to make it work, but just having 10 minutes of guided exposure with a specific goal. Or saying, okay, I didn't manage to reach out to 30 people, which, in matter of fact, I had in my January target list. Saying, okay, I reached out to 3 people, but I talked to 3 people and created some real substantial conversations and navigating this. And I think that to me was a very interesting lesson to be learned. Also, understanding when you find yourself in an existential crisis, so the struggle is real. Sometimes we have nervous system states where we recall an event, an emotion, a social dynamic, and then there's a program being replayed, which is an old program. But sometimes we find ourselves in real threatening situations, right? And then the lesson I learned here is that right here, right now, I'm safe. Might not be safe tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, but right here, right now, I have still agency. And that helped me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's interesting. That's also what the consciousness bubble all the people are talking about all the time. I mean, there are quite some strange people in the consciousness bubble who get very into the woo-woo and who want to use these, what's that, where you have smoke sense in your rooms and you try to manifest stuff. But on that present moment awareness, they are really on point. We say, hey, look, you just don't know what's going to happen. And so by focusing on the here and now and being able to tap into that moment and feel that sense of safety, which ultimately comes from this inner sense of, all right now, it's just that moment. So being here, being now, and as strange as it might sound, first off, it actually works once you practice it. And it's, by the way, we had our humorous moments about the Eckhart Tolle guy who teaches this all the time, right? He talks about nothing else. I mean, great teachings. Sometimes it's a bit, yeah, but that's another story. Um, but this thing of, hey, look, once you're able to really focus on the present moment, right here, right now, the moment opens up a kind of depth and of insight and of also intuitive knowledge that as long as you're always projecting into the future or remembering some past stuff, you're disconnected from the moment. And so now we're getting into spiritual consciousness teachings in here. I didn't expect that to happen, but now it's here. Um, once you really focus on the moment, it enables you to be at ease, yet at the same time be very, let's say, focused and powerful, right? Because you can tap into this potential. And so for me, for example, also to share a bit of a little, yeah, vulnerability is a big word for this, but um, I got me a little torn neck these days because I got me the sports injury. And so I considered to not do this today because I was like, there's pain. It makes my focus not at the best level right now. It could be a bit higher. And so instead, I was saying to myself, come on, let's just do it. You can ease into the experience, surrender to it, even if there's a bit of pain, even if cognitive functions might not be at 100%. Let's do it and navigate it by the moment. And so right now, as I'm talking, I'm having a bit of lower level pain. I'm like, yeah, it's not tragic. Yeah. And so why am I saying all of this? What is the point of getting to it? When you're listening to this right now, and you might be asking yourself, how is this situation gonna unfold, or whatever's going on, you always have this mental background noise. You might not even be aware of it. Yeah, it's like an air conditioner humming lowly somewhere in the background, and it's rubbing your focus on some level. So you're not fully present. And so one of the best tools to be more effective, yet be more at ease with yourself, is to focus on the moment and be okay with what's happening right here, right now. And one question technique that I really love for this, and it's so easy that you might think like, hey, this isn't enough, but just start doing it and you will experience yourself, is that ask yourself, where's my attention right now and where do I want it to be? And so by becoming aware, by putting attention on where your attention is right now, you get this meta level awareness of what's going on. And in the next step, you can then intentionally direct it to some specific direction instead of being like, oh, there's this one thing that someone said to me yesterday, or I got a really mean DM on LinkedIn, or someone deleted me on Instagram, or whatever it is. And instead, you can go like, yeah, what the fuck? Doesn't matter. I can focus on right now and do something effective in this moment. And so thereby you get back into the sense of agency and ownership.
The power of now. Isn't that what it's called?
Exactly. That's the Eckhart Tolle book
Yeah,
title.
is this what his statement piece is? The power of now.
Power of Now is the title of his book. Even
Really?
I think even Oprah Winfrey, I think she was the first self-made woman billionaire. She had this book as one of her listings of
All right.
that's what really influenced me. And um, yeah, definitely. The power of now is powerful. It's just you. I can see some people getting back to this consciousness space thing some people then try to meditate and manifest their life, getting their shit together, but it doesn't work that way. You
No.
have
How does it work?
it works by having this awareness levels, definitely going for this to be aware. So, I mean, let's create the polar, how to say that, the two ends of the spectrum. On the one end, you have these, "Hey, I manifest everything. I will just meditate and sit on a stone and have my man bun, for the guys who then get their long hair and that kind of stuff. And I smoke some weed and I take some psychedelics, and then it gets me to enlightenment, and everything will be great." I mean,
which
yes,
which is a passive approach, in my
yeah, and
opinion.
very
Yeah.
unconscious after all, because
Yeah.
actually you don't really become effective by doing this, but you try to sit there, and someone told me, "As within, so without." So I take care of all of my within. No, it's not gonna work. Trust me,
Right.
it's not the right way. But then on the other hand, speaking of business context, you have the people who are pure hustlers. They do their 18-hour days, and they run around like headless chicken, constantly in motion, burnout to burnout. And thing is, by pure volume, you get some results. So it can look successful, but it gets you, as I said, from burnout to burnout, and you
Right.
seldom, if ever, get to next level. It's like you have a car, and you have this gear shift thing, and you constantly hustle in first gear instead of learning how to get to the second, third. Someone from the US listening now, you might not even know this because you're all running on automatic, right? You don't use gear shift. But in general, you can say that this hustler mindset is running in first gear all the time
Yeah.
and not being able to shift up. And so, what we want to do here is have that energy level of the hustler, be able to be actionable, but have the awareness or the ambition, at least, of becoming more aware of the other part of the spectrum, where you can then say, "Yeah, I take care of awareness. I am conscious. I learn about myself. I raise my self consciousness," right? Getting to know your own self, your own mental patterns, your triggers, your all of what's going on inside of you, while
Yeah.
at the same time, you take massive action. You do things. You risk rejection. You are open to getting feedback. You are open also, especially in the business context, to the boredom, because you have to bring your reps. It's like in sports. Business entrepreneurship isn't always an exciting thing. If it's still exciting, you're actually doing it wrong. Once it gets
Right.
boring, once it gets boring, you're actually doing things right, because it's a sign that you set up some processes, you set up some systems which actually get you somewhere. And so by having this awareness level and staying actionable, that's the sweet spot where you can really get to it. And I mean, let's bring in a cheesy metaphor in here, because our nervous system, we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic branch, and they have entirely different functions, and that's how the nervous system works. And so let's say one is for relaxation, the other one is for tension, and you actually get the the best experience, and by the way, the best sensory experience of having them both balanced is actually having parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system activated to the equal extent. And when you have this, your life is pretty great. You can really enjoy then being deeply relaxed yet highly energetic, to put it that way. But as long as you try to be in one branch only, you don't really get anywhere. Yeah. And so if you only remember one thing from what we talked about today, it would be this, honestly. At least from my side. Xenia, you have to decide for yourself what might be it. But that you say, get to this level of balance in your nervous system where you are able to be aware, be in this deeper level relaxation mode. So not in anxiety, not in constant, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" But this feeling of trust, right? Of some sense of ease, of comfort, not being tensed up. Yet at the same time, be actionable, do stuff, talk to people, create cool things. and ship them. Yeah, don't go get into perfectionism, which would be too much tension once again, but do things that you're excited about, that you really love. Stay actionable with it, ship it, give it to people. At some point, you will have people pay you to get them that stuff. And that's actually how you build a business, after all, in a nutshell. And so,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah, very interesting points you mentioned. I agree. I think that self mastery is mastery of your nervous system states. I do agree that you need to regulate, reflect, and react. So whenever you find yourself in an autopilot mode, or when there is a new exciting idea, stop, regulate, reflect. In which state am I in? And then react, which is also what you said when you want to break out of those loops and loops of default mode network and self-criticism and past reactions or reflections. Stop, regulate, reflect, react. I think that's a good way to approach setups. And then also what you said, and I absolutely agree with this as well, is state beats action. So most of the time, hyper performance people find themselves in an addiction loop of hyper performing, meaning not the result and the end goal of achieving those things, but the chase, the constant chase is what you're addicted to, the drama, the urgency, right? So state beats performance, regulate first, understand, okay, what am I doing here? What am I chasing? Am I chasing or am I creating? I think these were the two things one should always ask themselves. And then,
you're mentioning a crucial thing here. I want
yeah,
to interrupt you on this because
sure.
that's, no, that's, I think lots of people get so lost on this, the thrill of the chase. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
exciting to just do it. And it, yeah, it's exciting in the early stages of your journey. Really, you should be doing it to some extent because it energizes you, it gives you excitement. It makes you go through some stages where
It
you,
makes you feel
yeah,
comfortable. That's important. I think this is
yeah,
the important differentiator because it's excitement can come in the disguise of that's where what I'm used to.
exactly, yeah. I was getting to this. Thanks for your interruption, Xenia.
Yeah, sorry.
You wrapped me of the pointer. Um, and so,
Sorry.
no, look, look, thing is, early in the beginning, you should be doing it because it makes you keep actionable and to generate first results. But then at some point, you have to outgrow it. It's what brought you here keeps you here, it will not get you there. Because you then get so comfortable with that feeling of excitement, of chase, that once you get to that state of boredom, which we just mentioned earlier on, boredom feels wrong, although actually it's a sign that you're progressing. You know, especially in business,
Yes.
once you have systems, processes which yield consistent results, which have your MRR, your ARR on a consistent level, which let you invest, let you grow to wherever you want to go to with this. But as long as you stay in this, oh, I need excitement, you will unconsciously sabotage your new levels. And so this is what we want to make you aware of in here. Yeah, to be able to see that boredom and not excitement is your new friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And also wherever there is a sense of uncomfortable perception or challenges, whenever it doesn't feel too nice or too good or too reliable or known, this is where your next step is hidden. So if it's a good guardrail, boredom, anxiety is too much of a word, but uncomfortable situation. What's the noun for
That's great.
feeling uncomfortable? Uncomfort. Is that
Discomfort.
discomfort?
Yeah,
Discomfort. There we go. So discomfort, boredom, pattern disruption. So whenever you find yourself faced with those patterns, this is where I invite people to look closer.
absolutely. Yeah, and
Yeah.
especially for, I mean, so to speak, the tribe here, neurodivergent entrepreneurs, right? People who themselves have some EHD, autism, HSP running their systems. It's you find yourself in a place where you get your comfort from the discomfort.
Yes.
In order to get to your next level, you kind of have to get your comfort from having comfort, which at
You
first
have to be comfortable feeling uncomfortable. That's something which is really,
or
really
let's,
important.
or let's frame it a bit differently because linguistically it's even more beautiful. You get to the point where discomfort has become your comfort, and where comfort is your discomfort. And so once again, you have to find comfort in comfort and not have this unconscious ambition to get into discomfort, yeah, which then can translate into what we sometimes call the KPI of suffering, yeah, where you say, hey, as long as there's some pain and discomfort, that's great. Or it's
Right.
I I'm I met people who had eating disorders who mentioned, hey, whenever I feel hungry, I feel strangely productive because I can feel how my body is working into this direction because yeah, but it's still a disorder. Yeah. And so to I mean, let's put a bit of a dark side perspective to it. When you are an entrepreneur, you want to be disruptive. So first off, you have to be kind of the uncomfortable entity where you disrupt some known pattern. You do something new, it becomes your USP. Um, and a big example for that would be Apple, by the way, who, when Steve Jobs back then, he said, stay hungry, stay foolish, be disruptive. Nowadays, look at what Apple has become. Yeah, it has become a rather boring thing because they have become successful. And on a micro level, you can adapt that to your own business journey, where you say, yeah, of course, in the beginning, you have to be disruptive, you have to be uncomfortable, so you have to stand up to your own discomfort. But then the next level is to stand up to the boredom. Let comfort once again be a bit comforting for you. And in that way, you actually grow in effectiveness. And then to let's tie it a bit to values over here, because of course you can say, hey, I want this party of excitement to go on. I don't want to get to this place of comfort with my business. So actually, I'm gonna be disruptive again and again and again. And yeah, it might work. You might have a little new target audience, a little bit of a new addressable market that you get to with this. But on the other hand, you can just get even better with what you're already doing.
Well,
Improve your quality with this. Xenia, just shortly. I'm almost
mhm.
finished. Then it's your turn again. And by doing that, you can actually scale up your significance. And then it's your choice. If you say, hey, actually, I want to stay on a certain level and, so to speak, stay exciting, or you say, I want to create these processes, I want to be more systemized, and thereby scale this further. And of course, they're in between spots. That's right now the higher level version perspective of it. There's more ramifications to it, but basically you can say you have these options. But now, Xenia, you wanted to say something in between.
Yeah, just also conscious of time because we are all now almost hitting the 15-minute marks. So I would just say that we come to a close so that we don't over, the capacity of human concentration nowadays is not the best, I'd say. But I was thinking because what you're saying resonated with me, and I was wondering if you could also, as a guiding question, ask yourself, am I chasing or am I creating? Am I chasing or am I connecting? Am I chasing or am I providing? I think the chase in itself, and it might just be me and what I observed in clients, is that chasing usually comes from a different nervous system states. It comes from the sympathetic nervous system state. And I'm very well aware we grow at the window of tolerance, which you said. So you need to be slightly uncomfortable, but still feel safe enough to fail and grow. But sometimes this chase can become a autopilot program, and then you might not have access to reflections which make you aware of the fact that you are actually in a nervous system state which is not capable of receiving. So you can only attract what your nervous system state is in. So if you are chasing something, then you might not be able to attract, because you can only attract when you feel safe and connected. And that's just, I think, maybe just leaving it there. If you want to add a few last words of wisdom, I would say that's what I would add to your story.
Yeah, that's a great thing, honestly. And last thing that I want to add to it is that make it habitual. Yeah.
Yeah.
For quite some time, I supported founders, entrepreneurs in creating habits. And the thing is that right now you might be listening to this and asking yourself, all right, but how do I get actionable from it? And Xenia just dropped some questions where you say, am I chasing or am I connecting? Am I chasing? Am I growing? Am I chasing or am I connecting, creating? And have some little journal ritual. Yeah, it doesn't have to be dear diary and I'm gonna write for 2 hours now. Don't do that. But instead have yourself like a 5 minute journaling ritual in the morning and simply ask yourself these questions. Or take even 2 minutes for it. It's enough, really. 2 minutes, you have a little bit of your nervous system entrainment already from this. Do it for 3 weeks, 30 days straight, and just look what happens. How does it change your perception? Because to give you this bit of background and also motivation coming from it, by simply doing this in the morning, you change the trajectory of your thinking, of your consciousness for the whole day. So simply by asking these questions, this will pop up throughout the day, even on stressful days. And the more you do it in the morning, even for these 2 to 5 minutes, it makes a change. And so give yourself the time, get up 5 minutes earlier, write this down, take a couple of notes to it, and simply in the beginning, don't go for intensity, go for consistency. Simply do it,
Amazing.
train your nervous system to go to this place, and then see what happens.
Okay.
And then share it with us. We are really
So
open to
cool.
your story.
Yeah, I think this is actually a cool ending now because it loops back to what we were starting the podcast or this app or this live with the power of now. And if you feel as everything is falling apart, safety and orientation by setting the framework for your day, how powerful is this? So as everything around you deteriorates, you can regain control by setting up the day for yourself. And I think, isn't that the ultimate agency? So I think that's brilliant. We wrapped it. We are brilliant. No, I think that was just a good flow of a conversation. So we can loop it back. So really cool. So we have 53 minutes of real live conversation. Thank you for doing this with me. And thank you for taking the time. I appreciate, again, the conversation which we had was quite interesting.
Xenia,
Let's
thanks
see
for
where
having
this
me.
goes.
Absolutely. See you next
All
time.
right.